A frustrating loss for the Boston Celtics in game 2 against the Miami Heat, blowing a 17-point lead to lose by 5. I'm Sierra Goodwill here with Josue Pavone, Jimmy Toscano, and Bobby Manning. We're going to get into the post-game locker room blow-up. Marcus Smart apparently storming out, swearing, things were thrown. Before we get into that, what happened specifically in this third quarter, but also down the stretch? Was it Miami's zone, or was it just the Celtics beating themselves in this game?
Well, it started with Tice getting whacked across the head there and coming out of the game, and Cantor comes in and they give up 3 monstrous dunks on the roll to Bam. I thought that's where they started to lose themselves a little bit, and then the offense fell apart. I think they finished 1 for 8 in that third quarter. So both ends, they're falling apart on both sides. I think Brad said they didn't do anything right in that third quarter between the quarters. So they didn't do much of anything in that third quarter, and it didn't drag into the fourth. They started the fourth well. They held the Heat to 2 of 11. They hit the bonus. Brown obviously had a big stretch to try to win the game. But so I was kind of stunned that the locker room blew up, because I look at this and said, they just got to fix like one quarter here. And then to see them just throwing things across the locker room apparently was jarring for me.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both here. The Celtics, I thought defensively, they just started letting up. They weren't the same team that we saw in the first half.
Rebounding, yeah.
Yeah, I thought a lot of that came down to effort. It just seemed like the Miami Heat wanted it more. But, to Bobby's point, when they held Miami, it seemed like the water was running dry. And that offense, sometimes it seems like, went live or die by the 3. It looked like they were dying by it in that fourth quarter. And then the Celtics, I just thought it was poor shot selection by the Celtics. And specifically, I'm looking at Marcus Smart now. I don't know if this is a direct correlation. It's not fair to assume, but obviously my mind is going there moments after the game. One that stuck out in particular was, we were talking about under 2 minutes left to go. He's completely defended, and he wants to do a contested fadeaway jump shot.
Tragic,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, you want it to be, a little hero-ish in my opinion in that instant. Okay, that's fine. And then he does it again. The ball swinging, which was doing so well in that first half. I'm like, wow, look at the Celtics offense flowing the way it should be. And it gets to Marcus Smart, where he could have had at least 2 more passes we could have seen in that possession. Behind the arc, he chucks it again. I just thought careless possessions like that were starting to stack up. And when you see someone like Marcus Smart, or at least you hear about Marcus Smart being the one that was screaming in that locker room, you can't help but wonder if there's a direct correlation between those 2 possessions and what was being said in the locker room.
Yeah, for me, it was the sloppiness. Definitely shot selection. I agree with you guys on that, but 20 turnovers. You're letting the Heat get out in transition. You're not really getting out in transition on your end. And again, how much of it is mental? How much of it is them saying, okay, here we go again. It's another third quarter lead that we're slowly watching dwindle away here. Because they did, finally, come somewhat back to earth in the fourth quarter there. And the both teams are going back and forth. But to be outscored 20 points in the third quarter in the Eastern Conference Finals, at this point, you're a good team, right? You shouldn't be outscored like that. You shouldn't make a 13-point lead evaporate that quickly. And I think what you saw in the locker room was just frustration. And all the players and coaches are going to say the right thing after the game. And I believe them to that. I don't think these guys don't like each other. I think they do like each other. And listen, they're around each other 24/7 right now, right? They played a lot of games, every other day. And this one is testing their mental fortitude, because they're down 0-2. This is the most adversity they faced as a team. And, their backs are up against the wall. So they're airing out their grievances, and I expect to see them come out, with some togetherness in Game 3.
Yeah, it's a problem when the Celtics' 2 best players have more turnovers than the entire Heat combined. Sloppiness,
wow.
Huge issue tonight in Game 2. But back to the locker room, because we heard from Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker. Marcus Smart declined to talk to the media after the game. He was emotional, left early. But they really downplayed it. They said, listen, we were emotional. You're not supposed to be happy when you're down 0-2 and played a bad game that you feel like you should have won. Kemba Walker reiterating, it was nothing, we're fine. Is this locker room blow up kind of the Kyrie team 2.0 bad situation?
Or, I knew someone was going to drop the K word. I knew it.
Or will it be
not Cantor.
I know. Or will it be the kick in the butt that this Celtics team needs after 2 frustrating games where they could have, if not should have, come out on top?
It's so hard to say without the context of what happened in there. Like, we can try to piece things together, but ultimately it looks like maybe something got said to Smart and he reacted that way because of the fact that he didn't talk to the media after. He left the locker room swearing and said, "Y'all on some bullshit," or whatever he said out there. That's what.
I was dead on.
Yeah, that wasn't. That was what makes me a little fearful of that situation. Now, if I look at it in a more positive light, we've seen Brad over the last few days say some things about this team. Like, we didn't even need to watch film because it's obvious we're not getting back in transition. What I already mentioned between the third and fourth quarters tonight. And so he's not a guy who's going to blow up on the team. We just know that 7 years in, he's not going to be the one smashing the clipboard into pieces like Steve Kerr. So maybe Marcus Smart had to do that job and just really lay a fist into the team. But, with what Joe Sway said about how he ended the game and how things seemed to transpire there, I don't think that's exactly how that went. So no practice tomorrow. I just hope there's some good communication because they don't have a long time to fix those things. Like, if they just come out and do the same thing on Saturday, the series is over.
Yeah, the clock is ticking for sure, Bobby. And I'm with you, man. I think with Marcus Smart getting that emotional, if I had to assume, and of course that's what I'm doing right now, there's something that happened in there. And I think it's something that could be fixed. That's the luxury of being with that core Celtics players, I guess minus Kemba Walker, having 2+ years together. That core going through adversity, through playoff series just like this. They've never trailed this much though, throughout this playoffs. They've never been down 2 games. They've never been down at all. So I think you have to take that into consideration when you think about how emotional they are after a game like this, which another game that they could have easily won, another winnable game. Also, keep in mind, yesterday marked the anniversary of Marcus Smart's mother's death, her passing. This bubble experience, are we overlooking how difficult it really is for these players? I think right. A little bit. I don't know if that rings true for every single team or most players in the NBA, but I think because the Celtics have that tight-knit group and the way they've been all season long, I think they only have each other right now, not to sound too emotional, but I mean, that's the situation. That's what it is. So I think they're going to come together. I think they don't have a choice. And I think they're all competitors that have been through adversity and have been through this before. I really don't think the series is over. I don't.
I think that's a good point, Josue, and I think it's weighing heavily on Brad Stevens as well. People obviously are giving him crap for being out-coached in this series, but I feel like almost multiple times a week he's saying how frustrated he is with not having his family around. So it's
right.
not a pass, but it's
point.
definitely something to consider as you see him consistently be short in press conferences and stuff. It's hard. It's a hard situation for sure.
Yeah, and you don't like to see your teammates yelling at each other, but we've been following this team all year, and
items flying over your head.
Yeah, exactly. I know that's a little much, but I've never gotten the vibe that these guys don't like each other, and I did kind of get that vibe last season. So I'm definitely not taking it as a huge negative. I think they're emotional after a loss. Was something said to Marcus Smart? Maybe, or maybe he's just an emotional guy, anyways, and maybe it was something very minor. And listen, Marcus Smart, he watches the film. He probably would take back that shot that he took. So he doesn't need to hear when he takes a bad shot, I'm sure. So if that's what it was, I'll be a little disappointed in that. I think it's more like these guys just need to wake each other up a bit. And maybe Brad does need to take on a little bit. I know that's not his style, but maybe if he did that last year, maybe it wouldn't have felt like Kyrie.
He's done it, Jimmy. Like, he's been tough on them statement-wise. Like, he's just not going to turn red and explode.
No,
like
I know, but hopefully he is like that more behind the scenes. I'm just trying to figure out ways why the players would feel they need to go at each other. If the coach isn't already doing it, there's no reason to add salt in the wound. If the coach just reamed out the entire team, they wouldn't need to ream out each other.
Right.
Well, hey, you made a good point, Jimmy. They're young. They'd be the youngest finals team ever. So this is still something you have to learn. Like they keep talking about not, complaining about calls and not getting back, and they're still doing that. So like there's lapses there.
They're young, but they're not inexperienced. So it only goes so far for those excuses, especially this deep in the playoffs now. But for all the rest of our Celtics coverage, you can find it on our website at clnsmedia.com and on our YouTube channel at Celtics All Access.